Album number 6 is starting to sound like, I don't think it's so much of a departure from Alien. I think it's an extension of Alien. But when people talk about albums from bands, you know, especially with Northlane, every album's kind of sounded really different. So I feel like people will expect this album to sound maybe really different from Alien, but I think Alien is actually a sound that I've sort of worked my way towards. Maybe I was always working my way towards, and I really like this sound. Like, I'm comfortable with it. I like the fusion of the electronic elements and the band aspect as well.
I've never heard anything like it, and it's just, I'm at a loss for how he comes up with it at the moment.
For John, knowing Marcus can do anything gives him the freedom to be like, all right, well, I'm going to do anything that comes to mind. And that's creating something that I've never heard before. And that makes me really excited, because I'm, you know, Northlane's not a band that will record the same album twice. We're always going to sort of progress and try and push the boundaries. And this is just taking it that next level again.
Yeah, there's lots of synths and electronics, and I may have pushed it just slightly more towards the electronic world this time around. Alien sort of featured little moments of that, but now there are sort of, like, there's a techno song, and there's, I don't know, there's a couple, so, like, I feel like on Alien, Eclipse was that song that kind of just had the driving kick thing going on, which is cool. But there's a couple of those songs on this one where I've just, the thing about those types of songs as well, to like a metal musician, it might seem a bit boring and repetitive, but with repetitiveness, you can allow the top layers, like the vocal and other things, to change in a way that you couldn't if everything else was changing at the same time, if that makes sense. I'm definitely borrowing that from the electronic world, from techno and from house. So I don't see it as boring. I see it as a way of, like, cementing something and allowing other things to change over that repetitiveness. And yeah, my love for that type of music just comes from, I don't know, just listening to it. I really enjoy it. Like, I don't listen to too much metal or rock anymore. I like that music focuses around rhythm and pulse and just being able to, like, easily move your body to it. And when I hear like, I don't know, like rock beats and stuff these days, it's too all over the place. I need something, like, consistent, and that's why I was saying what I was saying before about, you know, having something consistent, and that enables you to have things that change, and every time they change, they sound different because the kick is in the same spot.
There's a new thing going on in Northlane, and that is the electronic sort of element, right? And I'm a drummer. I like groove sort of drumming, and usually that's more so sitting behind the beat and making everything sort of groove. Whereas a lot of this electronic style is sort of pushing the beat. Now, this is like music lingo, but it is a different style of drumming, and it's something that I have never done. You know, I've never put myself in this scenario, and it's been a challenge for me to sort of adapt to that style of music and be more robotic, right? It's even though you're playing a part that might be, you know, easier to play to some people, you know, or compared to previous Northlane drumming, it has an element of it which is different and still really tricky to navigate. So I've had to sort of adapt to that, which has been cool. It's been cool to sort of progress in that way. You know, I'm sort of opening up another facet of my drumming ability by diving into this. And it also, because it is, you kind of put in a box a little bit, whereas like a lot of repetition, these beats will repeat and there's not much there's not much like changing out of that. So it sort of makes you put into this box, and you have to be creative within this box. And I find that really cool because you then have less to, it's almost like you're trying to paint a picture with less colors. So you have to think more about the colors that you're using to paint this picture in. And that's really challenging. So it's definitely opened up a new sort of area of drumming.
It's been really interesting, and also it's been a new kind of experience, I guess, because I guess with Alien we had started experimenting with more electronic elements, but it was still grounded in the heavier side of things, or the kind of classic Northlane sound, whatever you want to call it. But I think as well it's kind of let us be a bit more open in terms of how I might sing on something. Like a lot of these more four to the floor, somewhat dance vibe songs, they're still very dark and still have the energy that Northlane has always had, but I think it does leave a lot of room to do all sorts of stuff. But with that, I think as well, John has a very clear vision of what he wants it all to sound like. And I guess it's kind of trying to find that line of saying and writing about what I want to write about, and singing how I want to sing, but also kind of having that fit in with the vision of it all, which at times has been kind of difficult because it is a new thing for us. But I think it's just, it's a learning curve, and it's good, I think, because you can't always be comfortable writing music, and I think when you are a bit uncomfortable, then you start writing stuff that you never would have thought to.
When it came to Alien, he was just starting to get into his analog synth phase, which he seems very deeply invested in now. But it's cool to me. It's just so beyond me, I just don't get it. But some of the stuff that he's come up with is pretty sick. I have to rein him in sometimes on things that he's written that I just can't really see working, but a lot of the time he'll kind of rework it to shut me up and prove me wrong, which is kind of cool because I would never imagine any of the music that he seems to write. I've never heard anything like it. I think John's mind gets more and more insane with every album. He comes up with shit that I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, why and how and okay.
John's always expressed himself through his music, and he's, and if you know what Northlane is, it can be dark and ominous, and that's a pretty good reflection of John, to be honest. Like, most people wouldn't see the side of John, which I would see and the rest of the guys see, because he is sort of a recluse.
Yeah, it can be very hard to know what John's thinking because he is a very unique mind and a unique writer. But he does have everything going on in his head and has this idea of how it's meant to sound. It doesn't mean that necessarily I have to do everything how he wants it, but it has to still kind of align with what he kind of thinks the music should sound like. And I think at times I have found that kind of difficult because we're very different people, John and I. We come from different kind of musical backgrounds, and I like a lot of stuff that I know he doesn't like, and a lot of stuff he likes I don't necessarily understand. But I think that's, in the end, that kind of clashing of different ideas is what makes really interesting music.